What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to my channel. I was reading Carl Jung and I was looking at the element of a human dark side and how it can be integrated in our daily life activities so that it doesn't become a monster that is brooding and at some point it will overweigh us and we can't handle it anymore. And I was trying to connect this with the element of storytelling, and I realized something, that most people hide their dark side from their stories. And in the process of hiding their dark side from their stories, they tell a story that doesn't belong to them in completeness, even if it was. And every time we tell a story that is incomplete to other people, that is the complete story, and they start treating us like that. And when the monster becomes too big to be hidden, now it wears you out and you'll go in and start running away from people because you've got to the point where the monster can't hide anymore and it's carrying the house away. So what do we do about this when it comes to the art of telling our stories? What about we figure out a way of telling the story without omitting what is important to us? It could be something negative and something positive. No matter what it is, at the end of the day, we should leave our best story behind. For people like Hitler, the manifestation of their darkness was what has left a legacy that will never be undone in the narcissistic world. And he decided to accept that dark side and formed an affirmative action that made everybody work with him in his dream and in his story. And for whatever you're going to say about Hitler, he succeeded greatly at integrating his darkness to acceptance. And there are very many people who've done this before, and we know them for their greatness because of what they did. And not positively, but negatively. When you look at the elements and the principles like utilitarianism, these factors are built on the essence that at some point, for a good thing to come out of an action, sometimes the dark side has to be involved in, which means that action is not always good all the time, depending on what somebody is focusing on. Is it self-righteousness or self-goodness, or the greater good for the greater majority of the people? All these questions comes back and can only be answered by the true you. Who do you really are? If you're selfish, before you start fighting yourself from being selfish, what about accept the fact that you're selfish? Live like a selfish person, and then learn how to control your selfishness so that it doesn't overwhelm you and cost you important relationships. While telling our stories, it's very important that we understand the element of being the main character of our story and not other people. Most of the time when we omit our dark sides from telling our stories, this is what we're doing in disguise. We are trying to make other people the reason why our story is running. And the moment we make other people the reason our stories is being told in the first place, they don't relate to that story. So they keep criticizing us, and us we think that they are really supporting our story. They are not. All they're doing is trying to tell us that your story is not coherent and you need to figure out how to make it like one. We've lived in an environment where there is a contradiction and a big conflict between free will and choice, where people are going to tell us what we should choose, how we should live our life, how we should speak, how we should address protocol, and so on and so forth. Yet at the same time, this category of people are going to talk about the fact that we have free will. The question is, How are you telling your story? Are you telling your story with this predetermined script that you're being given by the facets of the society? Or are you building yours? And all the greatest men in the history of time built their own story. They never followed the script. The question is, how hard are you to write your own story? Because then you have to go against all this criticism again and again until your factor becomes a proven truth and a studied philosophy. I don't think that bad is relative. I think bad is integrated, because for every good thing to happen, a bad thing must happen. For a doctor to become the greatest doctor of all time, he has to treat the baddest diseases of all time. What does that mean? We have people who have to suffer those bad diseases. For an innovation to become the innovation that solves the world's biggest problem, the world's biggest problem must exist first. And so for you to become the greatest person that you are, there must be a position you put yourself into where the greatest vulnerability is tested, and at least for a very long time. Otherwise, your story becomes incomplete. And the reason why nowadays we don't have those great speakers, those great philosophers like Grant Tracy and all these people is because of one thing. Our stories are not coherent. Our stories are not complete. And why are our stories not complete? Because we are afraid of facing ourselves, facing the monster in us. We are afraid of facing what it could come of our actions. And it's very nice for us to come to a very important conclusion with this idea of telling the best story, integrating our dark side, but still living a virtuous life. Because when you get an harmony and how you can bring all this together, then you become great. But then it's not a necessity. No, that's the good point of it. Somebody like Hitler, he decided to totally sacrifice good and moral standpoint of his life and take the dark side and tell his best story. And trust me, it worked for him. But is it going to work for you? Are you in that position where you can balance? Technically, under normal circumstances, you can't balance all the three. But considerably, you can work still to tell your best story in the best way possible, in the best way known to you. So, this is just an encouragement. Like, let us never omit a side of us thinking that embracing one side is going to make us be the best people living the streets. Sometimes it takes a little darkness to push you to the real light. Otherwise, you'll be claiming to become just probably fireworks that is going to last just a little moment before you go off. But unless you accept a little darkness, then your light can never be seen. So let's tell our best story. And our best story can never be told by only living a half of us. You have to live yourself in full. And that is the good side and the bad side put together and all controlled by you. Thank you so much for getting to the end of this video. Make sure you comment, like and subscribe to the channel. See you next time.